And that was the first time that I just felt compelled to get up and say something. And I've never sat down since then.
Ooh.
I never sat down since then. I said something and then that was it.
Hello, I'm Guido Girgenti.
And I'm Amira Hassan.
And you're listening to Block Party, a show about progressive organizers taking over the Democratic Party so they can dismantle it or upend its agenda.
We kid.
Back in the hosting chair today, Amira Hassan, Justice Democrats political director. After a tour of duty, you back in D.C.?
I'm back in D.C., though I do miss Pittsburgh. Believe it or not, I do.
I don't believe it. Amira, how are you doing? How are you doing today?
You know, I'm doing. There's always so much more work to do. You're like, yay, we win. And then you're like, yay, there's more work.
And it's like, all right, we'll read the really depressing news. But this week's episode is pretty uplifting. Amira took the hosting mic, sat down for a one-on-one.
Yanked it away from them. I said, no more pod bros.
Yeah, you were like, this Coach Jeff thing has gone too far.
Yeah. We gotta reclaim the vibes. You know, there's like sports references. Who allowed this?
This is first
This is what
take.
you do in my absence, you know? No.
So you took it back, and who'd you talk to this week?
I had the distinct pleasure of speaking with Rep. Summerlee. Y'all might know her, you might not know her. If you do, you will get a whole lot more information from her. If you don't, you really will get a lot of information about who she is and what she's been up to in the last 4 years.
Yeah, it was a real pleasure to listen to this. Coach Jeff last week, I know you didn't listen to Mira, but Coach Jeff last week.
I always listen, excuse me. This is how I know about the sports references. This is how I know. Do you think I know about sports? No, I listen to this podcast, this political podcast
You're
that
right.
sometimes has pithy pop culture puns turn into ESPN.
On ESPN last week, Coach Jeff was like, building grassroots infrastructure early really makes a difference. And I feel like we say that a lot. And this week's episode is like POV story, what it is like to do that over the course of a decade and then take that to becoming Congresswoman-elect. And it's fun to like not get to the recent primary until the end of the story, because then you're like, wow, there's a lot. This is a long journey.
There's a lot of journey.
Yeah. This is what it means to do organizing for the long haul.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, what this race really showed is that for me, it's not really a story about Summerlee. It is and it isn't. It really is a story about community coming together and just saying, you know, we actually can do something here. We all have our skill sets that you don't think lend themselves to this work, but they really do, because organizing is just going out there, talking to people, having Excel spreadsheets, being on top of your shit, and like really, really, really caring, right? So I think that's what the story is really about. And that's, you know, what I got to witness firsthand on the ground in Pittsburgh for a couple of weeks. And I really, really want to shout out all the incredible super volunteers and people who made this race possible, because so many people lend their talents, their not just their money, but their homes, their like everything to make this happen on the ground. And, you know, as a national partner, it was incredible to be able to like really put all of our infrastructure behind what others have already been doing and really like plus up on it.
Shout out Allegheny County.
Shout out Allegheny County, not Allegheny County Dems, because they, you know.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're not with us.
Summer's very busy, Amira, but you were able to catch her on the phone.
I got her number. I said, girl, hop on, talk to me.
All right. Hop on, talk to me. So enjoy Amira's nice DC Block Party audio and Summerlee on the phone.
Girl, mine's been recording for like the last 5 minutes.
Right. Okay, great. Welcome to Block Party. I've wrestled the hosting mic from our dearest Guido today. There's been one too many sports jokes, so I got to recalibrate the vibes. We have a very special guest with us today. Drum roll, please. We have Rep. Summerlee. State Rep Summerlee, aka the Democratic nominee for Congress and PA 12, aka the $4.5 million woman. Rep Lee, welcome to Block Party. How you feel?
Lit.
You feeling like a winner?
I'm getting there. I'm every day that we get closer to this whole thing being certified, I feel more and more okay. And I'm getting there to okay. I know that you all are this was such a weird, it was such a weird election night. I know that you was like, you won, it's over. But like for the people who were not there with us, it did not feel that way to me personally. We were only like, there was one point in the night where we were up by 40 votes. Just 40. So when the night just suddenly ended and we were like, oh, there are still these machines that are out. And then it took another 3 days before they even started the count. It wasn't until Friday that it was called by the AP. And even still, as of yesterday, they were still counting votes. So I'm okay.
Summerlee, a ray of sunshine, always, the optimist. But before we get into election night, we're going to have to wind back a little bit. And with a little bit, I mean a lot of bit, because this election is not where your story started. It's not where the story of the movement you've been building in Allegheny County and Western PA started. And I want to really bring us back to before all of this. The year is 2018. Long before you set out to dismantle the Democratic Party.
Disclaimer.
Disclaimer. This is a jokey joke. Please, no cutting this into an out of context ad and lying on us, please. Thank you. Pretty please. 2018, you attended a school board meeting at your alma mater high school, Woodland Hills. What brought you to that meeting?
Actually, you know what? That was 2017.
Oh,
it was 2017.
We love a good fact check.
I know. No, it's just to really mark how long it's been that we've been building, because this wasn't overnight, right? It just wasn't overnight. No, so 2017, I went to the school board meeting, which I guess is like my origin story. It's my superhero, not my villain origin story. Those are different. But for my superhero origin story, I had just come up off of organizing in 2016 for the Pennsylvania Democrats. Cut that one into an ad, y'all. We are giving you permission for that one. But I came up off of this, right, organizing my own community. And then my school district, like right after, right, the election's over, we lose. Donald Trump's president. I just spent 100 hours a week organizing on a campaign that will ultimately fail. We're devastated. We're licking wounds. It was awful. And literally right after that, my school district that I went to, like the public school that I went to school my whole life, Woodland Hills, was in the news because this principal of the high school was recorded telling a Black boy with a disability that he was going to punch his effing teeth down his throat. And that nobody would believe him if he said anything, because why would they believe him over this white man with authority? And it was true, because the principal was about to be up for a promotion. That's how we get to the school board. That's what the school board meeting was about to be about. This principal was going to get a promotion to not just being a principal, but to also being the football coach of this football heavy high school, right? Where we've had some of the most NFL players, at one time, coming from one high school. That's how big of a football culture we have. And then this man's going to get to be the principal and the football coach. And the little Black boy, he got a charge for wiretapping, for illegally wiretapping this authority figure who he felt that he needed to record just to get proof of his abuse. And that's how he was treated. So the school, the parents, the families, the community was in an uproar, because even between that incident with this young boy, there were more. So then we started to see these videos going viral of this resource officer abusing kids, right, in just really vicious ways. And they were all kids who were just minding their business. Like one video showed like the principal and the resource officer, right, just coming into the office and just putting a kid in a chokehold who was just sitting there minding his business. Another, like, choke slamming a kid up against a locker. So we're seeing all these just repeated instances of abuse. And here, this principal is about to get a promotion. So we go to the school board meeting, and you know how they treat Black folks. They think that they pretend that we're apathetic, right? Because they don't really know the difference between apathy and hopelessness. It looks the same from a particular vantage point. But when you got the right vantage point, you recognize that they're two different things. We have a community that had been divested, they've been disempowered. They had believed that there was, or whether they believed it or not, they had never seen any evidence that there was anything that we can do to fundamentally change how we were being treated, how our government was being run, what our outcomes were. Mm-hmm. But for whatever reason, this community was galvanized. There were people who were finally coming in to help to organize. People were galvanized around the possibility of this man, these folks who have been abusing our kids, mm-hmm. getting off and moving forward and moving up. So everybody came to the school board meeting. We showed up. It was overflow. There was nothing apathetic about the response. Mommies and daddies and cousins and neighbors, people who didn't have children, all came to rush this school board meeting. And they were met with everybody's worst fear when you're coming before your local government, right? That they're going to be condescended, that they're going to be disrespected, that they're going to be disregarded, like they're going to be just thrown aside. And that's what we saw, right? We see them, school board members, just, on their phones, looking like they had better to do. They wouldn't change the rules to allow people to speak first before the vote, but they stayed anyways. They kept coming and showing up because they cared that much. Just the blatant disrespect that they were met with was just hideous. And that was the first time that I just felt compelled to get up and say something. And I've never sat down since then. Ooh. I never sat down since then. I said something and then that was it.
Okay, but what did y'all do? I mean, after the meeting, you obviously you spoke and the spirit moved you, you spoke. But what happened after?
I think it was the very next day that we lost, right? We lost. Mm-hmm. He got his promotion. Mm-hmm. The school police officers are still there. And just that next day, somebody called a meeting. We met at a church and everybody was trying to figure out what could we do. And I had this idea to run a write-in campaign for school board. We only had 3 weeks, right? We had literally 3 weeks. Because I had just organized this area. I had met so many just super voters because I had to call them every single day. Every day I'm calling these people. They knew me, I knew them. Mm-hmm. So I called one of them just reached out to me and was like, well, what do you need? I was like, yeah, we need some Black folks on the school board. Mm-hmm. And he just talked through with me, like, here's how many write-ins you need to succeed. He was like, this is a vacant seat. They rely on vacant seats to just appoint their friends, their close people, their family. And if y'all were to succeed in this write-in campaign, you can just get somebody on the ballot. So there was one young woman who graduated with me who was just really into this. Like she had children in the school district, but also she was just into, like, she was one of the people who would just dive through the finances of the school. She was going to every school board meeting, whether she was in person or watching. She was in it, right? She was in it. And she was already thinking about one day I'll run for school board. But I was like, I think it's today. I think the day is today. and we were able to convince her to run for the open seat. And then when we started to take off on that one, another Black woman decided to run against the school board president. And at the end, when it was all said and done, we're getting volunteer. We're getting the newspapers to participate. And it was just 3 weeks. It feels like it was so much longer, but it was just 3 weeks. And at the end of that 3 weeks, almost 1,000 people wrote in one of these women's names. Wow. Almost 1,000 write-in votes, right? Just in 3 weeks. And then, of course, we got the one on the ballot. She'd have been uncontested, so she was on her way to being a school board member. And then the second woman, it turns out she ended up getting 20% of the vote against the school board president, and she only ran for 1 week. But after that, honestly, just things started to just fall into place, because when the community just steps up, right? When you get that type of force, barriers like walls just crumble. Walls just crumbled before us. We ended up finding out the principal wasn't even certified to be the principal. He got fired. I ain't never seen him get fired like that. Without pay? Yeah, he got leave without pay. We were like, "Ooh, it's happening." It's happening, right? We ended up getting an advisory committee to the school board where we were able to just talk about policy, talk about the direction of the school, talk about who's leading our school, which is this majority Black school. And after that, the superintendent left, the principal, the vice principal, half the school board.
Cleaned house
on this, just from stepping up, just from saying, let's just run a write-in campaign. And we ended up starting to fundamentally transform the school, but the right way, through a grassroots effort with the community.
So you get off this incredible write-in campaign, you all clean house, and you're thinking to yourself, maybe we could do more. Maybe this isn't enough. Maybe I can do more.
Oh, no, I wasn't. No, I didn't. I wasn't thinking about me doing more. I thought that.
He said, not me.
Not I said the cat. No.
So what happened? Wait, so what happened?
I was thinking that we could do more. I was thinking that what if the reason why Black folks, poor folks, working class folks are not coming out and voting is because we don't have anybody to vote for, right? What if we were able to switch the game, like flip it and reverse it? And instead of the system sending us, its representative to us, what if we sent our representative to the system? And that was like the impetus for all, like that was the foundation of all this. What if we could send the system our representative instead of the other way around? So I just wanted to help to find particularly more Black women to run for office, more people who look like us and sound like us and navigate society like you, right? And connecting people, because I believe that would be the way that we can connect people, not just saying that you come up to vote, but connecting them at every phase of now taking ownership of producing our own politics and like not just consuming other people's politics. So we're like looking for Black women to run. And that's when we're looking
far and wide.
We're looking around. Like, we're like, yeah, we're looking, we're just like, who cares? Like, who cares about this community? What's next? We really were feeling like, what's next? Who got next? We're just like this little local group. We had no resources. We had no infrastructure.
How did you end up running?
You know what?
Who found you?
A random stranger just came up to me and was like, honestly, he asked me how I thought about capitalism. That's literally, since we're here, I'm gonna just say it. He was just like, what do you think about capitalism? I was like, I think capitalism and racism are inextricably linked. He's like, oh, great, you should run for state rep. And that was how we just started to talk about it. And to think, and then like, I met this man came to a meeting at the Eaton Park, and he just had maps. He had maps and he had numbers. He had precinct level data. And he was just like,
and you were sold.
I was like, okay. He came really well prepared. He came very prepared. I had never, let's be clear, I had never, ever, ever, ever considered running for office before that. Like it was not even like a passing thought in my head. And it's funny though, because I went to like my mom, and I went to the woman who like I kind of drug into being a school board member, and another friend who's my good girlfriend, who was also running for school board in a neighboring district. And I was just like, what do y'all think? And all three of them were just like, oh, duh. You know what? But honestly, I was able to do it because I had a mom who was just super supportive. I'm like unemployed because like I was done like, 2016, we lost the election. I had a choice at that moment. I had a choice to go and get another job. I was moved by organizing. Like organizing felt like my calling. Like I realized that at that moment that organizing was my calling. I was done. I was not going to go be nobody's lawyer. But I was like about to look for another organizing job when I got an offer to do the Fight for 15 and run for office. And like those two things were like the nail in the coffin, as it were. Because I was like, you know what? What's better for a Fight for 15? What's better than like going to McDonald's and Burger King and like trying to convince workers who are mentally abused and convinced that they're not worth a living wage in a union? What's better than that is to just go to the state house and we need legislators who will just fight for it in the inside, right? So that was like it. That was between my mama saying duh and saying, I will let you do this full time. Just go do it. Just go do it. I believe in you. And like the Fight for 15 being so demoralizing and witnessing how these like bosses acted to their workers. It was just like the message. It was like, just go do it.
So you did it. You ran for office. Turns out you won. I mean, I don't think that, spoiler alert, she won her state house seat. But you didn't stop there. You didn't stop with just winning an election. Your initial project of wanting to find candidates and building an infrastructure didn't go away. Tell me more about this part.
Yeah, that's funny because I think it's just like this driving force that I have is like, it's not just about me. It's about like we. It's about building collective movements, that isn't just one seat at a time or even just one body of government, but still just like that driving force. So after we just come up off of this really amazing victory that I believe really changed the game in Western Pennsylvania. Like I was running against a 20-year incumbent. I met another woman running in the next district who was also running against his cousin, who was a multi-year incumbent. And we, I think, paved the way for how we can really diversify, grassroots donors, how we can really just engage a volunteer crew. Like we had people volunteer at the state level who had never like volunteered at the state. These are people who are like, oh, I volunteer for Obama. but they were like volunteering for us two, no-name women, because we were able to generate that much excitement talking about environmental justice, talking like using our campaigns to organize around these other issues that were so important to people. Like we had a fracking proposal at the same time. And that's how we met that's how I met more people in the environmental community, right? Organizing the school board, met people in the education movement. We were able to bring them all together. And what we saw is that we have this infrastructure now that we didn't expect to have. So when I came up out of my race, I think we launched Unite, which is this pack that I founded, co-founded, to start to address the barriers that I would have experienced, but for the fact that I was very lucky. The experiences that Black candidates, poor working class candidates experience, right? Yeah. We don't have money, we don't have just this deep list of rich people who can donate. I remember when they told me how much I had to raise, it was like small fries compared to this congressional race. They're like, you had to raise $75,000. I almost collapsed. I almost fell out the booth in the Eden Park. But like thinking about people can't run for office for that reason. People can't run for office because, they don't have organizers in their sphere. Right. They don't know how to do a field plan, things like that. So we start Unite to do that. How can we just stand in a gap for these progressive candidates, unapologetically progressive, whether they're running at the local level for school board or borough council, or as we would see up to the mayor, helping to get the first Black mayor. We were able to do that because we created Unite so that candidates had a place to go where they didn't have to go through the establishment anymore, right? They didn't have to go to those same stale consultants who are going to give them bad advice, like don't go talk to your Black neighbors because they're not super voters, right? We were able to just really create a go around. And I think that was the spark that we just needed in this county. Like, this is not, we were conceding this county to like the white men, to the blue dogs. And there was so much more possible. We just needed something to house it.
We just needed something to house it and to build it, and you build it and you housed it. And here we are. But speaking of Unite, the big part of what y'all do that is your special secret ingredient is that you recruit candidates. And, I see some similarities here. I don't know if you do.
Subtle.
Like, just very subtle. We're getting closer to present day us. But, we always refer to our candidate recruitment, part science, part art, right? Like, you got to look at the demographics of the district. You got to look, at some polling. You look at the incumbent. But then there's truly the art of it, which is just like looking at the candidate, their story, the community, their level of community involvement. And, there's no perfect ledger to it. It's really like a holistic process. But, fast forward to sort of summer, fall 2021, and you get approached by us. And I would love to just hear how this all went down from your perspective.
Yeah, I thought it was Jonah who called.
Yes, Jonah. Shout out to our candidate recruitment director, Jonah.
Love it. It's like the second well-meaning white man who just came up to me. I was like, run for office. Right? They just be pulling up. They be pulling up on you. No, I thought I was like, you're mistaken. Like, surely you have the wrong phone number. What are you calling me for? I was really feeling that way because I was just like, oh, that's really cute. I felt flattered. I was just like, that's so cute. But he was just like,
me, little old me.
Little old me. I was like, oh,
Congress?
He's sorely mistaken. But I was like, oh, that's nice. And he like kept calling back. It was exactly what you're saying though, like that science and the art, right? And I was just like, what do y'all even know about Western Pennsylvania? And they're like, oh, we've like talked to these people. Like y'all had already talked to people. Like y'all talked to like some of our closest allies and partners and had already started to like just really glean from us what's possible. What is the ground looking like, right? What is the atmosphere and the conditions looking like? And I was actually really impressed by that because I didn't know any of that was happening. But when you
were getting organized and you didn't know.
I know, I didn't even know. I was getting organized. As an organizer, it can be sometimes very jarring to get organized. We're not supposed to get organized. No, when we first started, it was a different environment, right? People don't know this, but like when y'all first came to me, it was a different race.
It was a different race.
It's a redistricting year, so we had no idea what the maps might even possibly look like. The incumbent was still in the race, and he had just won against a challenger for like the first time. That gentleman was also still running. We had talked and we started to really kind of go through, just who are you? What are you into? What do you think about capitalism right now?
Yes.
And then I don't know what level of interview I was at when just like Jonah called back and was like, okay, so here's the deal. We done ran the numbers and we think that you should just not do it. He was like, the time is not now. He was like, Mike Doyle is one of the most popular incumbents that we polled. The other gentleman is already in. And we just think that you should just wait until 2024. We'll just get out first and we'll do it then. And in my spirit, I was like, because I was still torn. I was still just like, this is really a lot to ask of someone.
Damn, were we the villains? Damn, okay. We're gonna have to call in Jonah. We're gonna have to call in Jonah.
He wasn't the villain. Y'all were doing what y'all supposed to be doing. It was an agitation, right? Y'all have put it, y'all agitated. You were like, you know, it was a cool.
We planted a little seed.
Yeah, and we were dating. Like we were like on our third date where y'all like ghosted me. But Jonah, really, for real talk, Jonah was like, I think that you can win this when we do it in like 2024. I think that we'll just get out first, this, that, and a fourth. And he was like, but he said something. He was just like, if your gut tells you otherwise, though, give me a call. And I just never forgot that because I am a real like gut driven person, just like. The spirit has moved me again. Like the spirit moved me to speak at that school board meeting. I was like, you know what? The spirit wasn't moving me at that point anyways. And I really did kind of realize that. But like a couple months had passed and I don't know, it was just feeling like it was now or never for an opportunity for our movement. Right. And not just me, because I'm still horrified. I'm still horrified that I actually had the audacity to do it. But I just
we're going to loop back to that. We'll loop back to that.
I know. But it felt like a moment for our movement. I was like, what if we don't seize this moment? Right? What if we're looking at what could be like a huge opportunity for just like nationwide for the progressive movement, for racial justice, for economic justice. And I just like sit on it. And then I started looking at, you know, people's financial filings. I started to get the impression that like our incumbent was not going to stay. So, you know, that's when I called Jonah back. And I was like, I think when I called Jonah back, they were like, we were about to call you because we were feeling because they're like, we were feeling away too. And they're like, what do you experience? I was like, I feel like he's not going to stay. I was just like, and I feel like even if he does stay, I don't know. I feel like it's now or never. So that's how it was just like instant. That's how we were just like, I think we're going to do it. Like we did it exploratory committee, but it was like, I think we're going to do it.
A lot of you don't know this, but you and the incumbent, y'all spoke.
We spoke.
You spoke. You let your intentions be known. And, you know, because I'm a good scientist, I won't claim causation, but y'all spoke and he retired. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I will say, you know.
That's all that needs to be said.
And it's never an accident when you have a whole launch presser and video and everything ready to go the next day after his retirement announcement.
You know, shout out to the video.
That's right. Emma, Jeremy, media team. Here's your shout out. Let's go.
Let me get their flowers. Because you know that's
flowers.
more important than this point. Hand them their flowers. Yes. You know what? We were actually going to, and you know what's so funny because now we're on the other end of this. It's just like whatever, say what we have to say. You know, we were actually going to launch a week earlier, and it was like a lot of jitters because I had never launched a congressional campaign. And we moved that, we moved that launch to, what was it? The 19th of October.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And at that point, it was
vibes.
now it's just that, as of the 18th, it was an open seat. So it felt like a really great opportunity to say, you know what, this is our time. So that night we filmed the whole video. We cut the video, we produced it, we launched it, we did everything just that night. And then we got out running. And I think it was an incredible launch. We were just right on time.
It was an incredible launch. I got to be a set intern for the media team for the making of the video. And that was my first time in Pittsburgh. And I was shook. I mean, yes, obviously there's a lot of divestment and blight that, especially in certain neighborhoods. But Pittsburgh was beautiful. Did y'all know Pittsburgh is beautiful?
Everybody is so shocked by that.
Mayor Gady called me, put me on your board of tourism.
The board of tourism
is gorgeous, and
you come out of that bridge.
I was shook by how beautiful Pittsburgh is. I know. No, I mean I really mean it. I'm about to listen, Yeens. I'm about to become your constituent. Yens.
I don't say Yens. I don't say Yens. I say y'all. But Yins is a Pittsburgh phenomenon. Yeah, look, you come out of the tunnel. It is breathtaking. Like, you'll come out of the tunnel and just suddenly, pow, the whole skyline is before you, like right with like, a big yellow bridge. All of our bridges are like yellow for the most part because our colors are black and yellow. But it's a very pretty skyline. And there are some parts of the areas in the city that aren't as pretty. It's a tale of two cities all in one.
It is.
And that's what this campaign is about.
That's what the campaign was about and what the launch video really captured. And so grateful that you invited us into this community and that we were able to build all of this together. Okay, anyway, so brings us up to present day. I'm not going to get into some of the other wild parts of this campaign, the petition forgery, but you're classy and you're not positive, so we won't get into it. So we already had an entire episode sort of breaking down the tactical aspects of this obscene spending and the campaign and what the progressive left should learn and those aspects. But what I really want to talk to you about is really just like the human and personal toll of getting $4.5 million spent against you, right? And it, some people might say it was for somebody, but it really, there was rarely a positive vision put forth by the other candidate. And it didn't feel like it was for something, but it was definitely against somebody and something. And I want to talk through that because I don't think it's easy to just like, it's a number, but how that number felt and what it translated to on the ground is very different.
I think, and not even just a number, there's two parts to this, right? The number itself, just like, $3 million from one super PAC in 3 weeks. And I think it's so hard to just conceptualize like the avalanche that you're getting with somebody who can spend that amount of money in that short amount of time. This wasn't, millions of dollars over an entire campaign over months and months. This was one day we woke up and you could not turn the TV, the radio, YouTube, any streaming apps, right? Your kids are watching it when they're watching kid videos on YouTube, right? You could not avoid it. And it was just like these ads that were, saying the words, right? And at first you're kind of just like, damn, they're obsessed, right? But then if you can just imagine, like they're buying points on cable, on broadcast. You're watching the nightly news, there it is. You're riding down the street, black radio. It was on the black radio station. There it is. And it felt so, you feel hopeless. Like, I think that people forget that candidates are people. We are real people. And politics should not be this way. It does not have to be this way. And we have been convinced that it is inherently this way for a purpose, right? Because if we can convince good people, working class people, poor people, Black and brown people, and otherwise marginalized folks that politics is inherently evil, then we can keep us out of these spaces. Because why would any of us want to go to a space that's inherently evil? These are the tactics that they use to deter, it wasn't just a blow at me. It wasn't just to like knock the wind out of me, right? This was to send a message to like little Black girls and little girls in general, right? Kids, progressives, women, and say that if you step up, this is what we're going to do to you.
Yeah.
So you can't help but to be a bit demoralized. Like I'm very, very human. Knowing that my nephew is 9 and he has to watch it, it's just like, it made me mad. It made me really upset. You feel helpless, especially when you're fighting for the right reason. When you're like, I'm fighting because I believe that we deserve to have representation that reflects our lived experiences, our racial and economic backgrounds, our geographic backgrounds, right? All of that. And seeing that somebody would go to such lengths to stop us from having that, it felt like a personal attack and then also a collective attack on all of us. And dealing with those two things at once was overwhelming at a lot of time. It was really, Amira, were you the one who said like, yeah, we were getting curb stomped?
Yeah. I'm so wonderfully descriptive. Yes.
You're like, good morning. I know you're getting curb stomped.
Well, here's the to-do list. I mean, it's true. And I just want to say, I mean, like I said, I was like there on the ground in October. And like, obviously we were with people and filming in places that, obviously people had connections with you, but we would, be out and about and you weren't getting stopped in every corner. And then I was on the ground in May and I kid you not, y'all, Summer would get stopped at the grocery store, like driving, like everywhere we went, everybody knew who you were. And if they didn't know exactly who you were, they were like, I see you on TV. Are you a newscaster? Are you on the news? Like, I mean, even if they couldn't place where, from what it was so saturated that they made you famous.
It was like me and Ben Roethlisberger. Like for real, you know, you know what? For good or for bad, my name recognition is through the roof. Now, half of the population thinks that I want to dismantle the whole world. Probably a quarter of people think that I'm an active Trump supporter.
I mean, but the other thing is that the moment people met you, or the moment anybody heard anything else from the organizers, from volunteers, anybody who knows who you are and what you stand for, they immediately switch. And, you know, a lot of people, it did the opposite. It just got them so mad that people would do this, because that's not how politics have been done before. And
also, it was just mad out of touch. It was mad out of touch. First of all, while I'm being called not a good enough Democrat, we have a Democratic candidate who was allowing himself to be the vessel for the worst instincts that politics has to offer, right? These type of just nasty smear campaigns. On top of that, he's like a multimillionaire, and he is willing to like unleash that on a poor Black woman. And I'm not poor anymore because I have my job as a state rep, but I have post-traumatic brokenness disorder, like when you grow up broke and you've navigated life broke, it's a part of your identity in many, many ways, right? But to have come up against a working class Black woman from the Mon Valley, one of the most economically divested communities in this region, and to look and say that I'm willing to do anything to stop that region from having representation was just so like, it was such an insult. But it wasn't just it. If they had used the 3 million from the super PAC plus his couple millions, if they had used that just to push his positive message, and that's it, I'd be like, fine, great, you do that. But that's not what's happening. They were sending out mailers the day before the election, every household with a woman in it. We don't know why it was only women targeted. Every household with a woman in it who was a Democratic voter got 4 mailers, 4 of them. And they were like, me with Marjorie Taylor Greene, me with Donald Trump.
Sick.
They were sending out misinformation that I think it's just so unfortunate, because our whole thing is, if we're really going to be serious about expanding the electorate and about helping our electorate be more informed and discerning, then we can't be using tactics like, oh, I'm going to say that Summer hates public education because she didn't vote for Tom Wolf's budget. Well, Tom Wolf has never had a budget. You know, this is a Republican-held legislature. And here we have a candidate saying that I'm not qualified because I don't know enough about government. And like, they're going to outwardly lie to voters just to make them feel badly about me, instead of saying, voters, you should know how the Republican majority is running this state. So they were really willing to sacrifice voter knowledge for a victory, right? They were willing to say, like, you know what, this Black woman is a Republican just for a victory, right? So it was the money plus the lies, plus the disinformation that impacts voters, because voters deserve to be able to make an informed decision. If they don't want me because of what they think are progressive policy, if they don't want me because they don't believe in unions, or because they don't believe that everybody should have a living wage, or because they don't believe in clean air and clean water, you know, if you don't want me because of that, then great. That's your prerogative. I will still serve you. I'm still honored to serve you. But if you didn't want me for that reason, then that's your prerogative. But if you don't want me because you think I've supported Donald Trump, come on now. A Black woman supporting Donald Trump?
I mean, it's rare. It happens, but it's not this Black woman. So I know this is your favorite question. So, you know, before we get to what's left on the to-do list, are you going to join the squad?
Are you going to join the squad?
Are you going to join the squad?
Amira, I feel like you all at JD knows better than me. How does one join the squad?
I know. I mean, we've talked about it, right? You know about getting jumped in.
You gotta get jumped in.
I personally think that Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley probably has a mean right hook. So I already see, you know, I did forewarn you. I bring this up because, you know, it's besides the joke of you getting jumped into the squad, it really is about why people ask that question, right? Why do people ask that? Why do they ask? And it's, you know, are you going to join these other Black and brown women, or do you want to be a serious candidate? Do you want political cooties, or do you want, like, that is the vein in which this question is asked. And,
every single time.
Every single time. And I really, to me, I mean, it's like you said, the ugliness that we're seeing this cycle, not just in your race, but the disgusting personal attacks against Jessica Cisneros have been just, I guess, so fucking mad. I don't actually have words. And it's all there to really not just stop progressives, not just stop working people. It's to stop Black and brown women from entering the political sphere in leadership. You can
and entering it as ourselves.
And as yourselves, right? It's okay if you do it, but only if you do it this way. It's okay if you're in politics, but only if we choose you. It is okay if you're doing these things, but only in this very, very narrow way. And this is what, that question is really about. It's like, how dare you do this? And if you are going to do it, we want to put you on notice that it comes with political risks. And we're trying to break y'all apart, right? Because as long as we can get you to stand apart from each other, y'all ain't got no power.
Mm-hmm. Brother Malcolm X said that the most disrespected person on this planet is the Black woman. Mm. And that's what we see in that question. We talk about as a government having a reflective democracy, and we see it in a lot of things. Like we say things out loud, but when it comes down to the action, to the doing part, we see people balk. Right? Mm-hmm. When it's like, okay, well, we want a reflective democracy, but we still have people who will come at progressives because, progressive is a lesser than version of a Democrat. Oh, you can't win in a purple seat. You can't win in a swing seat. Well, yeah. And those purple candidates can't win in my Black district, right? In my Black neighborhood. We all are worthy of having representation. And what they're trying to do is create this environment, create this, I would say, they're trying to, it's a little bit of propaganda. Right, that an outspoken Black woman or an outspoken brown woman, a little bit, right? An outspoken Black and a brown woman is to be controlled. She is to be kept in her place. And when we think about how many folks had an elected official who they've never heard of them. They've been in office for decades and they know nothing about them, and they've passed 9 bills. Right. And that form of representation is okay. But the form that actually moves the needle, right? The form that is actually taking sacrifices. We might not have our name on the bill, but we'll be the ones that do the organizing on the outside. We'll be the one that sets the messaging and the narrative, so that we can create the conditions for victory for other people. We can create the conditions for victory for bills that we may not live to see, get passed, or we will. It just won't be in this day. That's the work that these women have taken up. And that they are so disparaged, to me, I believe is really just truly indicative of the implicit biases that we still have in our society. It's funny because even liberals, right, will talk about implicit biases and everything, but the squad, right? When we think about Black women who go to office and will use their voice, their platform, whether it be Twitter or a microphone, right? When you do that, there's still something, even when they're right. Even when they're doing what they're supposed to do, there's still a little piece of us that says, they shouldn't be so visible. So that's why it annoys me. And also it also annoys me because it's like, yeah, and I will also join every caucus that's working to the betterment of Black and brown folks, of marginalized folks, of poor and working class folks, because that's what we're supposed to be doing. But they're more concerned with whether or not I'll go talk to a Republican who has shown us every single day that they are willing to do anything. Every single day. I'm in the state house. I have to work with Republicans every single day. And look, these are people who don't care about us. And they get treated better than some of us in this party and in politics. But that's neither here nor there.
It's always here and there.
It's always here and there. You sent me on a tangent on that one.
We love tangents. Okay, we won't take up more of your time. I know you're a busy woman now that you're going to be in Congress. But I know that even though this felt like the biggest battle, we know that the battles never stop. This is ongoing. The work doesn't stop. So as we are closing the chapter on this primary, we know that we don't get to just kick back and relax. We know that there's so much more work to do and that there's a general, and it's not just your general election, which I will say that it's already ridiculous because there's a Republican by the name of, what's his name?
Mike Doyle.
Mike
What are the
Doyle,
odds?
which is the same name as the former Democratic incumbent running in the general. But besides that, you know, the stakes this November in Pennsylvania are so high. Please tell us more.
It brings us back to that having a reflective democracy and why and how important that is. We have to expand the electorate here. And Pennsylvania is, I think, one of those, a great example of that. You know, here, you know, in the state legislature, we have not just a Republican majority, but we have one of the more reactionary Republican majorities that you're going to see. And the only thing that protects many things, right, whether it be criminal justice and criminal legal reform, workers' rights, but also in light of the Supreme Court, you know, vowing to overturn Roe v. Wade, the only thing that's protecting abortion care, reproductive justice in this state is a governor's veto. And we have a really big race for the governor in Pennsylvania, which is already a swing state, and going up against the history of there's never been one party who has maintained the governor's house or the governorship for more than 2 terms consecutively. So we're trying to break the history there and get it 3 terms consecutively. And we're doing it up against this really big, what's projected to be a really big Republican surge year. So that means that we need both folks on ballots. We need people who can speak to and expand the electorate in ways that some folks just won't be able to do in places like Pittsburgh, where I am, in Philadelphia, where some other people are, and that's their job. But here in Pittsburgh, we got to turn out the vote. We are going to need people, Black folks, brown folks, women, young people, progressives, liberals. We are going to need every single one of them to come out and vote in November, because if we don't, we will lose. We will lose the governor's race. And if we lose the governor's race, we have some of the most restrictive abortion bans in the country. Immediately. We're a right to work state immediately. That means that right now our organizing doesn't stop. It means that we have to keep going on. We have to keep organizing. That means that we need to keep giving people a reason to come out, a reason to participate in the electoral politics, in our electoral politics, and not just say vote against something. So I think, and I believe that we offer them something to vote for, which will be a nice change come November, right? When the messaging is going to be coming down from them to vote against, you know, Doug Mastriano, vote against Dr. Oz if he prevails. So that's our task, right? That's we have our marching orders, and that's what we have to do. Because like I said, it's bigger than just one race, one candidate, right? We got millions of folks, women, particularly poor and working class women, trans folks, and non-binary folks who this is life or death.
Can't stop, won't stop. All right, we got lots of work to do. So if you have the time, the energy, the money, you know where to direct it.
Summerforba.com. You just hit us up there at our spot, you know, smash that donate button. You know, we are a grassroots funded organization, campaign. We don't take those corporate PAC dollars. I don't believe that United Democracy Project is going to be giving me $3 million. But I bet they're not going to stop.
All right. And on that note, thank you so much, Rep. Lee, for joining the block. Hopefully it won't be the last time. I know your number. I know your address. I'm going to find you. Say bye.
Bye. Thanks for having me.
All right, we're back with Amira. Thank you again to Summer Lee. Amira.
Guido.
This is the last time we're ever going to talk about corporate lawyer Steve Irwin. So,
listen.
Stingray Caucus, if you got anything else to say.
Okay, so here, this campaign had so many ridiculous things happen that it is hard to keep track, and it is hard to, you know, remember anything outside of like the curb stomping that is all of this money and what they tried to do. But in March of this campaign, during petitioning season, and petitioning is just, you know, the process in which candidates get on ballots, and they have to hit a certain amount of signatures, and there's all these, you know, rules to that. Steve Irwin, the candidate in PA 12, had this entire scandal breakthrough. This was huge because this man's campaign couldn't get the required signatures without faking and forging a bunch of petitions. And not only did they forge
he doesn't know petitions. That many people, Amira.
Yeah, he doesn't. He doesn't. You know, they tried
a
to
lot
fake
of middle-aged men do not have a lot of friends. Okay?
He didn't have friends. He didn't have organic, you know, enthusiasm. He tried to hire petitioners. This is a paid petitioner who just forged the signature of a federal judge. I feel like the story, you know, was big when it happened, but we forgot about. I forgot about it. But I want to bring it back because this man's entire pitch to voters, to the party, was that he was the man who could get things done, and he couldn't even get petitions. And I just thought that the gall of this man to then say he's the man to get things done, and then follow that up with the clip that y'all played with Coach Jeff, right? Everybody heard the clip where he was saying, oh, it'd be nice to have, you know, this like black woman. Like, wouldn't that, like, that's the nice decorative thing.
The attraction of having a black woman as a congressperson on its face, on its face is very attractive.
It's very attractive, right?
I know how she's worked with people. It does not indicate that it would be conducive to getting things done. And then Amira on March 25th released this statement in response. This is Amira commenting over that quote.
If the Audacity was a renewable energy source, baby, we would solve climate change, because one thing white men will never, actually men will never run out of, is the audacity. Because what else do you call this?
Breach.
What else do you call this? Because how does somebody who is best known for forging the petition signature of a federal judge, amongst others, right here, pause to read,
Bing bong,
admits to forging the signature of a
We're going to link
judge.
this video in the show notes.
And this is the only thing that this campaign is known for. How does somebody like that have the audacity?
The audacity. I'm mad again.
Person to get things done.
Okay, so it turns out I already said everything I needed to say. Play that clip.
You're right.
I'm over.
Play the clip. Roll the clip, baby.
Let's roll the clip. That's all. You know, I already said it.
All right.
Anyways, Summer Lee she ran an extremely positive campaign, and you will not find her, saying negative things, because she's focused on what she's trying to build. She ain't focused on what other people are not doing. But see me, I'm petty. I will remember who the man was that could get things done.
This is not Congresswoman-elect. Okay, this is
Amira.
This is political director.
Yeah.
All right, Amira. Last question. What did Summer say to Mike Doyle to get him to retire early?
I mean, listen, she didn't say anything except that she was gonna run. That was all.
Wow. That was it. Her reputation precedes her. I mean, I guess that's what and Mike was like, and I'm out.
And you know what? In his retirement speech, he said it was time to have the next generation of leaders. And then he endorsed a 60-year-old white man. So that was his legacy. Thank you, Mike.
All right, that's the show. Thanks, Amira. Thank you again to our producers on this episode. Senior politics producer Becca Rose. Block Party producer Sophie Kapp. Bye.
Bye.
See you on the block.